I'm going to go ahead and text Tony, just let him know we're on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for attending. We'll give it 1 minute here just to let everybody get on, but I know that this is a recorded session. And look, we just got one of our speakers just came on. So Tony, welcome. So I do want to thank everybody for attending, whether you're attending now or whether you're attending the replay of this or whether you're watching this later on. We are really, really excited at Oracle to be doing this session and to be announcing the go live of and the availability of Oracle Guided Learning with PeopleSoft. And so Oracle Guided Learning has been around for a little while. We're going to tell you all about that, and we are going to take some time to really show you what this is all about. All right, so today we have a few people on the call with me. So myself, for those of you that are from the HCM community, you probably know me. My name is Jeremy Pelly. I'm a strategist on the HCM side. I got introduced to Oracle Guided Learning because I'm actually the strategist for our learning management system, so our LMS. And so because I'm kind of the learning guy on the PeopleSoft side, they're like, hey, you want to look at this Oracle Guided Learning thing? And I'll be honest with you, it's one of the things that I've been most excited about in recent years as far as learning comes. It's really exciting product. We have with us Tony and Allison, both from Kaiser-Permanente, and they're going to share a little bit about what they did with Oracle Guided Learning on their FSCM system, PeopleSoft, and a little bit of what they're doing at Kaiser. And then they have another session later this week that they're going to probably put a few shameless plugs in for, and that's okay because they're going to go a lot deeper into their implementation of it when we get to that part. And then last but definitely not least, we have Marcus Bode from SpearMC. SpearMC is our designated reseller for Oracle Guided Learning as it pertains to PeopleSoft. And so Spear and Marcus, I said that backwards, but he's gonna talk to you about kind of what they're doing, offerings that they have on guided learning, and kind of what that's going to look like. Okay. So the first few slides that I have here, we're just going to talk about high-level Oracle Guided Learning. Then I'm going to turn it over to Allison, and Allison and Tony are going to talk about their part and what they did. They're going to show you a little bit of a demo of what they did, so we'll do a little bit of switcheroo on who is showing, and then we'll come back, and at the end, we'll let Marcus talk, and then we'll do a little bit of question and answer from you in the audience. You can put questions in the Q&A tab. That would be preferable as opposed to the comment section. That way we're looking all in one section for the questions, and we'll go through that. And then if we don't get a lot of questions, we have some questions that have already been asked of me just since Paco's reveal yesterday, as well as we've actually had some customers that have come to know about Oracle Guided Learning in the previous weeks, and we've gotten some questions from them. So if you aren't there to ask questions, we do have some questions that have been asked. So the first thing is, what is Oracle Guided Learning? You know, Oracle, we couldn't possibly have something that we didn't give an acronym to. So you'll also hear it called OGL. And so it's just one of those things, right? We live in an industry that loves acronyms, and Oracle likes to take that to the next step, and we like acronyms even more than the overall industry. But OGL is what you'll sometimes hear it called. One of the things one of the reasons we're talking about Oracle Guided Learning is because a lot of you out there may use a tool called UPK, which was a tool that was actually acquired back. PeopleSoft had it originally before Oracle acquired PeopleSoft. PeopleSoft had it. Oracle then liked the tool, actually bought the company rather than just buying the license, and we resold UPK and utilized it for quite some time. UPK is coming to end of life from that technology. Part of that is because it's there's a flash-based component of UPK. There's some other things there, but really OGL is not a replacement for UPK as much as it is the next generation of learning. UPK definitely has its place, definitely has a good user base, and it definitely met a need. OGL is not a direct one-to-one replacement. Let's understand that. But OGL definitely has its benefits. One of the benefits that you're going to notice is these three things. You have real-time guides that show users how to enter transactions that may be complex or rarely used. That's kind of my wording, but it's at the time that it's needed. And so, you know, like I said, I'm a learning guy. I've taken a lot of training in my studies on adult learning and how adults learn and how we retain information in the whole thing of in-person training versus web-based training versus pre-recorded training, all of those things. And the thing that we found through all of this, there's multiple studies out there, is that adults tend to learn better when they're learning at the time that they need to learn it. If you teach them something and they don't need it for months later, the retention drops off a lot. And so putting something real time is absolutely one of the best ideas. There's some other ideas out there that are also great, gamification, things like that help to retain information. But at the time, just in time, real-time learning is absolutely key to productivity. And that gets to the second point, faster time to productivity. The idea here is that on top of that real-time learning, if you can be taught something at the time that you need it in real time, you're actually going to become productive a lot faster. And so that's just faster time productivity. And then analytics. And I believe that Kaiser is going to speak to this a little bit. If they don't today, they'll definitely touch on it in their session on Thursday. But let's be able to get some information on the learning we're doing. That is one of the hardest things in the learning world is analytics, is how good does the training, how well is it retained, how well is it used? And OGL actually gives us the ability to get some analytics that we've never been able to get to in the past. You know, how often are people clicking on this guide versus, you know, not clicking on it, being able to just complete the transaction, things like that. And so being able to get some analytics out of that. So that's really the key to OGL. There's a lot more to it. Oracle Guided Learning changed the way you think about the adoption. You know, it's really a revolutionary way of thinking about learning in and of itself. And it's funny because I actually had a head of learning at a very prestigious financial institution back when I was in consulting come to me, and he was like, I really need something that is just in time, right at the time. And at that point, we didn't have an offering that we could give. And so we worked through some stuff. We did some custom built stuff for him. But I'm telling you, if I'd had this, that would have been the answer to the question right there. So it's not just, though, about you know, the guides. So you see over here on the right, and you'll see them in the demo here in a little while, you know, that we can give you multiple guides of where to start and the transactions and things like that. But I can also give you in-application messages. So I can put a message directly on inside the application when you log in. I can do the step-by-step guides. You saw that in Paco's keynote, maybe, where he said he wanted to transfer an employee, and it gave him kind of a step-by-step, and he stopped it, you know, a few in. But it gave you the idea of the little bubble right there where you needed it. But it's not, you know, that's a big portion of it. But it's also, you can connect it to your LMS even. If you had a LMS and you had training out there, then you can throw a link out there to your LMS if you want. You can do other things other than just the guided learning aspects of it and the notification aspects of it. So these are a few of the ideas. And it's pretty flexible. So here's the thing. This was first offered on our SaaS platform, on our Oracle Cloud platform. And you can buy it and utilize it there. And Kaiser may speak about they use it in their SaaS platform. And then they also use it in their PeopleSoft platform. And you can actually use this in other HTML5 applications that are out there. And so this is not just about PeopleSoft. This isn't just about Oracle Cloud. Oracle Guided Learning is something that you can actually utilize throughout your organization. Let's talk about some of the analytics that we have here. 2018 LinkedIn Workplace Learning Report. 68% of employees prefer to learn at work. Okay, 58% of employees prefer to learn on their own pace, which I would argue that's actually probably going to increase tremendously as we get as the newer generation comes up. And 49% of employees prefer to learn at the point of need, and that's another one that I think we're going to see continuously rise. As our generational workplace generations kind of shift. So these are some of the benefits that you see. Accelerated time competency, we talked about that a little bit. user-enabled, just-in-time, context-sensitive learning, fewer support calls. That's the whole idea. You saw or that's one of the ideas. The title of this session is let's get less support calls to our help desk. Ensure compliance and maintaining guided material. These are all online guides, right? They're not something that you're doing in Word and printing or making into a PDF and throwing out there on a SharePoint site or something that's going to have to be maintained that way. These are online guides, a lot easier to maintain. And you can manage change communications with those little pop-ups and things like that. So I just have 2 more slides here, and I wanted to show a little bit about how it works, just because I wasn't sure if anyone else was going to show this. But the OGL editor, when I got access to this, I was just unbelievably impressed with the ease of this editor. You just create, you can see these are some of the guides that we were demoing with and playing with. You have a simple editor here, and it literally overlays your application. And so here it's overlaying PeopleSoft, and I just have the ability to actually go through and create these learning guides directly in the application that I'm using. So here I have the ability, this was the transfer employee one that Paco showed in his demo, and I just have the ability to come in here and kind of do things as I normally would, and making notes and showing this is where I want to take this person, this is what I want to point out. And so I just wanted to show those 2 slides just because I thought to myself whenever I was utilizing this and learning this, the editor was a big piece of what made this so compelling. So with that, I want to turn this over to Allison and Tony. So Allison and Tony are with Kaiser-Permanente. They were probably our first customer to utilize this on the PeopleSoft application. So Allison, Tony, are you there?
I am here. I think that you might have to stop sharing before I can start.
I am. So let me stop. Okay, there we go.
Okay, there we go. Are folks seeing the homepage for our OneLink?
We are.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so once you install guided learning in your PeopleSoft system, you will have this little widget that appears on the homepage. And so that's the guided learning widget. And we call it guided learning because that's how we had continuously marketed it. But you can call it whatever you want. This is completely editable. But again, we call it guided learning. So when you select that, by default, what you do is you get a list of interactive guides. So these are actually the guides. And they are controlled by security. So I only see the guides for the security roles that I have assigned to me in PeopleSoft. The guides can be searched by keywords, and it does not only include the words that are in the guide title, but you can associate other keywords with the guide for people to search on. So, you know, there's lots of things that users call one thing as compared to what it actually is in the application. So the keyword search is very, very useful. So I'm going to just do a real quick demo of this create a check request for payment. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but just show you a couple little steps, and then I want to show you a few other things in guided learning. So it starts out and gives a little intro. You don't have to have the intros. We included that. And then in this particular one, we give the users some guidance in terms of what they're going to need in order to create this. They're going to need to have a supplier already available in OneLink, which is our branded PeopleSoft application. And if that supplier isn't available, it gives some information on how they can get that supplier set up. So now we actually are going into the guide and just telling the user to click accounts payable, and then payment request center, click on the add, 7012 is not a common business unit. It's for business unit for users to have as their default. I happen to have it. So it tells them to verify that the business unit is 712. Comes down to invoice number, again, gives them some information about it, minimum of 6 characters, no leading zeros or special characters. What happens if I don't have an invoice number? Well, okay, you can assign a recognizable unique identifier because it is a required field. And then it goes to the next step for the calendar. So I'm going to stop there because I think people generally have now an idea of, you know, what it does and some of the things that you can do with it. And I'm going to go back to the home page and I'm going to share a couple other things about guided learning when we get the widget back. In my a non-production environment, it's a little bit slow here. In a recent upgrade, Oracle provided the opportunity for you to add user-defined categories to this widget. So we added 2 categories, one for training, one for support. You can add as many as you want. And what that does is that's providing an opportunity for users to get linked to other important information that may be useful to them without having to leave the application. We intentionally did not duplicate any information here that is already available to users in external links in the application because we did a lot of communication about that. But again, you can put whatever category and however much information you want available, and it just saves the user from having to go someplace else to access this information. So again, we did training and support, so it links them right to ServiceNow if they needed to create a ServiceNow ticket or request additional OneLink access or go to the OneLink website for something that's not available here. Another thing that you can do in guided learning is create task lists. And so we created a number of them for this particular role. I just have access to this return to vendor task list. And the task list basically allows you to, give a list of activities that need to be executed in order to complete a particular task. In this case, it's return to vendor. And the great thing about task lists, at least from our perspective, is that we use them for tasks that are included in guided learning, tasks that are not included in guided learning, and just general information. So for example, here in the receive product link, we just let them know that before they can create the RTV, the product has to be fully received. And we're kind of assuming that if they're creating an RTV, there might be some shipping exception. And so we want to make sure that they have access to our documentation on handling supplier shipment exceptions so that receipt is properly done. And then the next one is get RTV information. We also let them know all of the information that they're going to need at the time of creating the RTV. So they don't start that exercise without having that information. And then finally, the last 3 are guides within guided learning. And so by selecting any of those, you just launch into the guided learning activities. And it takes you, again, through the various steps. So again, just a real kind of quick and dirty in terms of the guided learning. Some of the other things that we've done, links to policies, particularly like in areas where there's gray areas or variations. So in expenses, depending on what type of gift you are expensing, there are different limits, and so we link directly to the expense policy. We also link to videos when there's something that might be too complex to explain within the guided learning step. We will link to a quick reference video to give users that additional information, because we try to limit the amount of information that we actually put into a particular step. Jeremy, mentioned messages. I don't have one available because the messages expire. But we also use messages. So if something is changing in an application, we can pop in a message that alerts the user to what that change is. So we found messages to be extremely helpful whenever we're changing functionality, just to give users that information and also to link them to an associated guide if they need more guidance other than the, hey, this is what the change is information. So all in all, guided learning is very versatile, and we really have kind of, I think, used it to all of its capabilities by having the links, by using the different categories within the widget, and by using messages outside of the guides. One thing that I didn't mention is guided learning can either be basically a pull where the user has to come in and find and select the guide, or you can do it as a push where you can start it automatically when the user accesses a transaction. We have not used it in that capability as of yet. We sort of piloted it. We did pilot it when we went to fluid expenses last fall. And the pilot group, again, they were experienced with expenses and they felt that it was kind of intrusive. And so we made users aware that there were guided learning had been updated and refreshed for fluid, but we didn't automatically launch it. But again, it's just a capability that may be of value for us in the future, or for you if you decide to use the tool. So I'm going to stop sharing and have Jeremy go back to the presentation, and I'm going to toss it over to Tony, and he's going to start with some of our slides. Tony, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, Tony, can you hear me? I can't hear Tony. Allison, can you hear me? I can't hear Tony or Allison.
Hey, Jeremy, I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Allison, I can't hear you. Can you unmute Allison?
Hey, Jeremy, can you
Marcus,
hear me?
Can you hear Allison?
No.
I can.
All right. Well, I tell you what, I'm happy to jump into my slides if these. I'm not sure what's going on with them. Maybe they have to log off and log back on or something. I know this has happened for a number of other presenters. So let's just call an audible. I'll jump into my slides. All right. I will not steal anyone's thunder, I promise. Tony, I've done that to you before, but not today. And they will log back on. And in the meantime, we'll talk a little bit about what SpearMC is doing with the PeopleSoft product development, Oracle University, as it pertains to Oracle guided learning. Sound good?
Okay, sounds great. So can you see your slides?
Yeah. So I can see the first slide with the hummingbird on it. Very good, thanks. And I'll just say next, or if I want you to go back, then just go back. So really quick, I'm going to take 10 minutes, and I'm going to promise everyone that, and I'm going to set my timer here on my phone. There we go. Okay, got about 8-9 slides here. So much of this, Allison did a great job doing the demo. And I mean, every time I see more and more about this product, I always, I'm always made aware of new things. I did take a couple notes when you were speaking, Jeremy, and back in the day, in fact, my first business trip ever was out to Pleasanton, California, back when I lived in Illinois, to take a PeopleSoft training class, and I got a little nostalgic when you talked about like how adults are going to learn going forward. Maybe I wasn't a fully baked adult yet, but a lot of kids out of college aren't going to be able to experience that, and that's a shame, because some of the earliest and best memories of working with PeopleSoft came from the network and the relationships I made within those training classes. But nonetheless, here we are in 2021, and the 3 points you made: real-time training. This number 2. I wrote down relevancy, right? Learning in your own environment, huge, right? And the third one is analytics. SpearMC, we've been doing training. In fact, we started in 2004 as a company doing PeopleSoft training. That's where we got our start, and now we do everything else related to PeopleSoft, including training. But that was always one of the biggest factors to a successful class is conducting a training class in a customer's environment. Whenever we could do that versus just US 001 demo environment, the level of uptake was always that much higher, and that's what I love about this product. So again, I'm not going to read this slide to you. A lot of the demo you already saw. I think the most important thing here is that this is an integrated product with PeopleSoft, and that the PeopleSoft Learning Widget that you saw, it's launched from the Fluid home pages, right? And at that point, it opens up interactive content whenever the user either needs assistance as they move through the fields, or any of the other, like learning functionality that you saw. So, okay, next slide, please. There you go. Excellent. Okay, 2 things to point out here, and Allison did touch on this. So obviously there's this concept of the movable widget, and I picked up on that yesterday on Paco's presentation. I don't know how many people did, when he was doing his demo, and he was just kind of moving this blue widget along, around the screen. I just wonder, gee, I wonder how many people actually know what that's for, or if they're wondering, like, what's that blue widget doing out there? And that's specifically what the widget is. The menu that drives Oracle guided learning, right? And it includes things like type ahead search. Again, you start the learning, the e-learning modules, or the guides. Let's call them guides. From the Fluid home screen. And then there's this concept, I thought it was really cool, and we saw it a little bit in Allison's demo, these the flash tips, or the smart tips, used to alert for application updates, anything that's context, very unique or nuanced to the organization, or perhaps to the user and the role that they're in. So I thought that was really cool too. Along with the one thing we didn't see are those the learning videos, those quick start guides, the learning videos. Those are also very helpful. So excellent. Thanks, Jeremy. Next slide, please. All right, very good. This is cool. So this is where the real-time feedback comes into play along with the analytics, right? So what we have here is and again, right, I'm stealing a little of their thunder here because I think this is so cool. Real-time feedback. At the end of a learning guide, the end user can give feedback instantaneously on the value of this guide. So think of it as if you're responsible for maintaining your LMS, or you're running a learning and training organization within your company, at your university, that as you're rolling out learning guides, and these are not massive guides, right? These are, think of it as a snippet. You can instantly see, all right, hey, what's the feedback I'm getting on this? So again, I'm stealing a little of the thunder, but this is one of the coolest things that I saw, and I know that they implemented it here at Kaiser as well. So again, and the survey results feed Oracle Guided Learning analytics for real-time reporting on the usefulness of these guides, and it gives those in charge of developing content the feedback on, hey, is this what we hope to accomplish? And again, right, this is where it gets cool, and the whole title of the presentation is, hey, as my learning gets more and more effective, what happens to the number of, to the number of help requests that come in through the ticketing system, be it Jira, which is what we use, or be it, like a ServiceNow or a Remedy or what have you. I thought that was pretty cool. All right, I got 4 minutes. Okay, next slide, please. This next slide, again, leveraging the best of Oracle Cloud, analytics, right? So this is the analytics dashboard. Again, I thought this was pretty slick. This gathers analytics around which guides are being accessed, which guides are being completed, report on, the adoption rate, the uptick, and I think you can get down into the user level as well, right? So you have compliance training that you need, a subset of your user base to take. You can track that within the Oracle Guided Learning Analytics. Okay, next slide, please. A little bit about the approach, right? SpearMC's pathway to Oracle Guided Learning rolling out into PeopleSoft production. Again, I'm not going to read this to you because I can't even read what's on the screen right now. It looks much better in paper, I promise you that. So this is, so if you're thinking about it from an approach standpoint, right? I'm an ex-PeopleSoft, well, I'll say that loosely, ex-PeopleSoft implementer. I think once you're a PeopleSoft implementer, you're always one, but you have to start somewhere, right? And this is the approach document that you use, okay? And it's the a guided needs assessment, a GNA. Think of it as your blueprint for your e-learning module. So again, right, as you go through each step, and this is very similar to what we do when we build up PTF scripts. What's the step? What's the description? What are the values, right? Only in this case, you're building content, okay? And just a very quick visual on like, yep, okay, nothing more than, a very fancy Excel spreadsheet, still the world's #1 ERP, and how it feeds into Oracle Guided Learning, all right? Thank you. Jeremy, let's talk a little bit about the services. Why SpearMC and why Oracle Guided Learning? And that would be there you go. Okay, so why SpearMC? Hands down, our level of PeopleSoft expertise, the training material that we maintain in-house, our relationship with Oracle University. We're the only Oracle University partner, that's completely dedicated to PeopleSoft, only dedicated to PeopleSoft. We are the currently the authorized reseller for Oracle University. It is a subscription, right? So you're subscribing to Oracle Guided Learning, and it could be a cloud credit, the Oracle Guided Learning Cloud Services, available to all PeopleSoft customers, and based on the number of users. Okay, and we have been talking to Oracle University about potential discounts that may be available to current UPK customers. as they convert to Oracle Guided Learning. Let's talk a little bit about point number 2, Oracle Guided Learning Managed. Oracle Guided Learning, what do you get from SpearMC? As you subscribe to managed services, we'll stand up the Oracle Guided Learning modules or the learning guides that pertain to a specific module within your production environment with analytics, and then we'll maintain relevant and current training content at each major People Tools release or at each one of the functional PUM releases. And my alarm's going off, so I got about 20 seconds. And the training content updates, that's up to the customer, right? They're either made on request by the customer. They may not want us to automatically update your training content based upon the latest PUM release, because maybe they haven't adopted it yet, or maybe their training material is very nuanced and they just don't want it to be changed. But again, and then one more thing to point out is where do you get the content to initially build out the material? That's where we look at the material that we maintain within our PeopleSoft All Access Learning Pass and our other all the other content that we maintain. Jeremy, the last 3 slides here is just a little bit about SpearMC. Slide is just our expertise around everything with PeopleSoft. I'm not going to read this slide to you, so let's go on to the next one. In 2021, we were recognized by Gartner. We're the only PeopleSoft specialized vendor that was featured in the 2021 other Gartner Market Guide for Oracle Professional Services. So very proud about that. And the last slide is a map of the United States with all of our offices, SpearMC Consulting, PeopleSoft, coast to coast. Thank you very much. And I hope that we can hear Allison and Tony, because I don't have any more content.
Can you hear me this time?
I can.
Okay, so
I can hear you.
Story on off button. I literally just went out, pasted the link in, and came back in. So who knows, right? Great. Well, Marcus, great job, and we obviously coordinated on our dress sense today as well. So by now, I think Jeremy, Allison, and Marcus have probably inundated you with a lot of the reasons why guided learning. Allison, are you going to show the slides they're displaying, or Jeremy?
I am.
Perfect. So let me just sum it up from personal experience. I don't know about a lot of you, but I hate taking training classes. I'll admit it. No offense to training developers or trainers that are out there. I just hate taking training classes. And oftentimes I will not take them, and then I'll fumble through when I actually have to go on occasionally and approve an invoice or submit an ePro rec or do something else on the system. And usually I bug my support team or my colleagues or whoever's in the office next to me, which is not optimal, right? So I personally love guided learning because it's just in time, it's the right content, it's tailored and curated to our personal needs, and it's there when I need it, and I can not use it if I don't want it. So it saves me a lot of time and productivity. So that's kind of the tagline right there for me. As our organization at a high level, why do we look at doing guided learning? Allison gave you a lot of the functional reasons. For us, Kaiser-Permanente is a large not-for-profit integrated delivery healthcare network. We serve 12.4 million members. And as such, we've got about 250,000 end users on our finance and supply chain PeopleSoft system. So 250,000 users. And each month we have thousands that are new users or transfer and change jobs. So quite frankly, we just couldn't scale and support the cost of a training team for all of that ongoing and new user training and new functionality training. It just was not economically feasible. Like a lot of you, we're tasked with continuous improvement, continuous cost efficiencies to squeeze the most value we can out of our organization and manage budgets. And so again, guided learning offered us that chance to not have to invest in a large training team and not have to invest in a lot of large ongoing in-person or training material update type of process. So as you hear more of in our Thursday, Allison's Thursday presentation, we actually train any new user group now. If they require training, we'll do it via virtual proctored training using our guided learning. So it's actually the same guided learning they're going to see when they're in production. So we get a lot of efficiencies there from training development, from training delivery. And then on the support side, going sort of looping to the topic here, we really needed to improve our customer experience. And again, we can't keep scaling our support organization. So we look at ways to augment our support organization. And we get literally thousands of uses of the guides that we've developed per month. So if you think about that, that's potentially thousands of calls to support. How do I, what do I push type calls that don't happen now because of guided learning? Or in my personal example, it's the person next to me or my team that don't get those calls bugging them from, whatever work they're working on saying, what do I push now? So, there are a lot of the sort of key reasons there. And the other fact for us that really helped us on this journey and we're grateful for was our HR team actually migrated to the Oracle HCM cloud, where guided learning is a native part of that. So they asked us to join with them, again, from the perspective of gaining efficiencies and user experience. So when I now log on to our new Oracle SaaS Cloud HR system to do my performance reviews for my team or manage HR data, I see that nice guided learning icon in there, and it sort of feels like a taste of home, right? It's a friendly face in a new system for me as we went to the cloud. So we're giving that seamless user experience as you go on your journey from PeopleSoft to, say, the Oracle Cloud there. So they're the main reasons. I think the other thing, which Allison again will go into a lot of detail on in Thursday's session, is how do you know if your training's being effective, right? We do customer sat surveys, but not specifically really on training. Well, for guided learning, first of all, you get that, Marcus and I call it the airport bathroom customer satisfaction logo, the smiley face where you have to say, how was your experience? Was it good, bad? And it's very simple. Remember those days when we used to fly in planes, and I guess we're going to get back to that soon, right? So, but that's on the end of every guide use, right? So you get some really good feedback from your users on the individual specific guides. And then secondly, we get monthly analytics, and they're fantastic. It's by guide, what are the most guide views you've got, by user, who are your top users of the guides? And we actually marry that up at Kaiser-Permanente with our support tickets that come in from our ServiceNow ticket management system. And so we can see where are the big spikes, where are we getting good use in guided learning versus our traditional help desk ticket usage. So it really helps us kind of target and see, where the value areas for guided learning, which is largely in those self-service areas or new functionality. But also, where maybe we be experiencing issues with our system. So it's been a real boon for us with that data collection. Okay, Allison. Can we hear Allison in terms of simplicity? Oh, we can't hear you. Do you want me to continue on, Allison? Yeah, okay. So the other key thing for us in terms of oh, there you go. Oh, we've lost you again. Okay, so Allison, how about I take the baton to carry us through? Yep, perfect, great. So the other piece for us was the minimal in-house development. So there was an HTML object that we had to create to store some JavaScript to connect the users to the guided learning cloud. And again, we were kind of on the bleeding edge of this, taking that guided learning cloud product and putting it on PeopleSoft. So as the product offering kind of evolves with PeopleSoft, that may evolve and change as well. But the main thing for us was that Oracle was responsible for a lot of the development and also the ongoing maintenance. So for us, we're on an annual cycle of taking the PUMs and doing a tools update, etc. So it really helped us there that Oracle was kind of on the hook for testing and the ongoing maintenance of those guides. We have, again, depending on how you want to count them, Allison, right, 350 plus type guides that are out there across our finance and supply chain modules now. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so implementation considerations, where will you get the biggest bang for your buck from your audience? And so for us, for example, if you look at Treasury, we had like 4 users of Treasury. So we decided, you know what, it doesn't make sense. The juice isn't worth the squeeze to spend time on guided learning for them. That's more in-person, colleague to colleague type training. However, a lot of the self-service areas like expense, everyone in our organization is enabled for expenses. Things like approving or creating an invoice. On the external side, e-settlements, right? For our suppliers coming into e-settlements or the e-supplier portal, right? They need to be helped there. We've got a lot of suppliers that are connecting in. So, and e-procurement is another key area. So with your organization, work out where your pain points are, where maybe new functionality is coming in, and or where you think you're going to need the most help in terms of training your users. And the other piece at the end there, have a learning strategy for what's not included in guided learning. Like a lot of folks out there, our huge core is our Oracle PeopleSoft system, but we have some other what we call edge applications that are out there, things like inventory handhelds and scanning and a few other systems. So some of those you may need to still augment with your traditional training approaches. But again, our lion's share and anything on PeopleSoft you can enable through guided learning. Okay. Next slide, please, Jerry, or whoever's driving. Okay, so the key benefits for guided learning, I think I've covered a lot of them. And as in my personal example, better user experience, number one, right? Let's focus on the user experience. It's real time, it's the actual transaction. You're not learning it and forgetting it after 2 weeks and then having to fumble through it. You're doing your real transaction. Your work is done in production when you finish using guided learning. You don't have to call support or, I don't have to bug Allison and the team there. And as Allison mentioned, the tailored content. So you tailor that content, those drop downs, the chart fields, whatever it is that you can explain for your organization. Hey, you select A if you're in this group, B if you're in this group, for example, really helps. We talked about the training and delivery efficiencies. We talked about augmenting support and the guide maintenance, right? So that's where you're going to drive a lot of your support efficiencies and your training cost efficiencies. And then again, continuous improvement in terms of the testing of the PUMs, in terms of the usage that I mentioned, the usage by guide users, the customer sat with the smiley face or not at the end of each guide. And all of that combined really led to a lot of benefits for us. So why don't I stop there? And Jeremy, back to you. Are we opening up for chat questions or close?
Yes. So now we're gonna have some question and answer time. Let me see if I can back to the questions here. So we do have a few questions. So let's kind of go through the questions we have first. Can we get a copy of the spreadsheet from SpearMC? So Marcus, you want to kind of talk about that?
Sure. The guided needs assessment, that's the spreadsheet that you're talking about. That comes with this. That comes with the subscription. So absolutely, once you subscribe to Oracle Guided Learning, we'll provide you with the spreadsheet.
All right. What were benefits for Kaiser on support call volumes? Has it declined percentage-wise? And I know we've had this conversation ourselves with Kaiser, just kind of to determine what the true benefits analysis was.
Yeah.
Tony or Allison, I don't guess Allison can talk. So.
We could do like a puppet or something, right? Allison could talk and I could hide my mouth.
She's learning sign language.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so for us, we track it. So in a lot of the areas where it's kind of infrequent use or specialty users, we didn't really notice a drop-off of support. Again, I would use the term augmentation. Where we noticed a heavy use of guided learning, new functionality that comes out. So we'll see a spike in the usage, hundreds or thousands for the first probably couple of months, 2-3 months, which is great, right? It shows that users are coming in, using it, learning the functionality, and then kind of they don't need it anymore, which is great. The heavy use month-on-month areas are those self-service areas that I mentioned, right? So we get, again, thousands, hundreds or thousands of guide views, guide usage in the self-service areas. So expenses, a lot of stuff in the invoice management area, the portal, so e-settlements with our vendors, e-supply portal, e-procurement. And then again, you can see spikes in different areas as new employees have come on, etc. But they would be the main areas where, again, we take hundreds or thousands of potential calls out of the support volume.
Awesome.
Oh,
all right, next call. Is this a... Oh, go ahead.
I think Allison was trying to mouth something, but my lip reading skills are not that good. Did I? No, okay. Feel free to write it in the chat,
okay.
Allison, if I forget anything or if you want to highlight anything. Yeah.
There you go. Next question is this available for organizations who are not on Oracle Cloud? And absolutely. So, well, let me preface this. You can have PeopleSoft on OCI. You can have PeopleSoft in person. The Oracle Guided Learning piece is a cloud subscription piece. So the Oracle Guided Learning piece does run in the cloud, but your PeopleSoft system does not have to run in the cloud. And this is available both on PeopleSoft and Oracle SaaS applications in the cloud. So it is available both ways. But the actual Oracle Guided Learning system is a cloud-based system. Are the guided learning guides a part of the module, example e-procurement, or outside of the module that the user will click on before entering the module to perform a task? Tony, you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, and I'm not the technical guru, but basically it's outside of the module. It's kind of a separate overlay. So you click on the little I think it is, right, to bring up the guides, and then it will step you through.
Yeah,
but it's actually
so it's
in the module. So yeah,
right. So that's what I was going to say. That step you through in the module. So I mean, when you're doing it step by step, you're actually transacting with the real-time database. So if you're doing it in production, if you're doing the Oracle Guided Learning against your production, then you're doing it in production. If you're doing Oracle Guided Learning in a test or training database, then you're doing it in that database. So it's really an overlay is a good way of putting it.
Exactly. And at least for now, or in the way that we were using it kind of as the canary in the coal mine or the test case beta, from the home screen or the home tile screen, that's where you would use a guided learning, and you would search in whichever area you wanted, expense inquiry or invoice approval, and it would bring up the various steps, and you would click there, and it would take you automatically into those actual transaction screens to go through your transactions with the overlays on top. Yeah.
Next question we have is this an additional application with additional cost? Right. So that it's true. It's not included as part of your PeopleSoft license. This is an additional application. It's very similar, I would say, to like the chat technology we've been talking about. It's just an enhancement to your PeopleSoft application. It works alongside your PeopleSoft application, but it is an additional license, just like UPK was at the time. Okay. And then can OGL object be put in a navigation collection? And I think we kind of answered this one with the overlay question. There's really not a need for it to be in a navigation collection. It really is an overlay. So you have that little eye. We call it a remote. I don't know what it's actually supposed to be. It reminds me of a little remote control. But that can exist throughout the application. And so you can click on that when needed. So there's not really a need for it to be in a navigation collection. It's not actually a PeopleSoft navigation. So that little little remote icon can exist on the page. It's just an overlay on top of the page. Okay, those were the questions we had in the Q&A. Let me double check the chat just to make sure that we haven't had somebody come in on chat. Looks good. So the one question that I got earlier, and I think this is going to be to Marcus, is you know, how do if I'm interested in this and I wanted to get started, you know, I heard Marcus talk about what SpearMC is doing. I've heard Tony and Allison say what they did, but where do I go for more information, and how do I get going, and how do I find out more about this?
Yep. Yeah, Jeremy. So at this point, since it is you know, very new, and this is one of the things I mentioned to Rebecca as well. You know, so any requests, have them channel through me. What I would do is, depending on the nature of the request and what they're looking for and who to get involved, I can get the right folks involved from Oracle Product Development, your team, along with Oracle University. You know, and you know, to also get them the right pricing as well. So have them start with me.
Okay. And Marcus will make sure if he needs to get anyone involved, he'll definitely get us at Oracle involved.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Tony, you want to tell people when y'all's session is on Thursday?
Yeah, exactly. It's on at 9:15 Pacific, which is 12:15 Eastern time. Sorry, I'm a West Coaster, so 12:15 Eastern for those of you that are out there.
Yeah, I keep telling everyone whenever I say something, I say I know the time's in Central. You're gonna have to do the calculation yourself. So
Exactly. Great.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else that anyone wants to share? We have about 4 minutes, and then we can give some people a little bit of time.
I was just going to say, Thursday you can roll straight from Rebecca Jackson's session right into this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm excited. I've personally seen a lot of what Kaiser is doing, and you know, I joke because you know I'm an HCM guy, right? And I'm looking at the FSCM. But prior to my role at Oracle, I was actually a director of healthcare IT. So I love seeing what y'all are doing because I had the FSCM system as director of IT for a healthcare organization. So I just salivate at what all y'all have been able to do with it. It's great. Thank you everyone for joining. You can always reach out to me, myself, for more information if you need to. You can also reach out to Marcus. You can reach out during the conference through the conference platform, or you can reach out, you know, outside of the conference, definitely. But trying to pull up my little for more information slide here, see if we can get it showing. Of course, that's the little looking at it. Yeah, looking at ourselves over and over here. So just so that those of you that don't know, PeopleSoft info, you know, you can go for more information. There's a lot of places that you can get information as far as our video channel. You can get our product roadmaps, delivered features, things like that. For those of you that don't know, we're on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Oracle blogs. Go to blogs.oracle.com/PeopleSoft. All of the strategists blog, as well as some of our development team. So you'll see blogs from myself, Julie, Tammy, Lisa, Robin. You'll get to see quite a bit of information, including information about our new podcast that Robin is doing. Again, thank you for attending. Here's my email address if you need it, and I can always put you in contact with the right person. Everyone, have a wonderful day and have a great conference, and we will see you later.
Thanks.
Thank you.